Hello friends, my name's James, and this is my 1965 Albert 30 sloop SV Triteia. I have been slowly sailing around the world since leaving Los Angeles in 2021. Since that time, I've covered more than 17,000 nautical miles, from the Hawaiian Islands to French Polynesia, New Zealand to Australia, and more. I crossed the largest ocean on the planet solo. Join me as I continue my way through Southeast Asia, exploring its jungles, seeing its wildlife, and experiencing cultures far different from my own. This is the magic of seeing the world by sail. Hello friends! After 6 months of being in this marina, it's time to go. A few days before Christmas, I limped back into this Marina del Rey here on Gili Air on Lombok. After the monsoons had switched and I found myself in really dangerous situations off the coast of Java because I wasn't able to make it out in time before the monsoon switched and the wet season bared its teeth. So I turned and came back and licked my wounds here. Again, that was like a few days before Christmas, and right now it's June 7th, so it's been like 6 months since then, which is totally insane. It's been stunningly beautiful blue skies and sunshine for the last like 3 weeks, and I was super excited to get moving today. I woke up this morning and it's pouring rain. I was just like, the irony of it was just too much. But now it's passed and the forecast says it should be done for the day. So we're gonna make a 25 nautical mile passage to Gili Air and get back into some adventures. Terima kasih. Ya. Pagi-pagi. And we are off. Very exciting. Oh boy, been an exciting start. Left the dock, immediately got away from the moored boats and realized like there was no GPS signal going to my Navionics, either from my Garmin puck or from my data hub. This is a brand new iPad, so I'm sure it's something in the settings, but thankfully I had my phone which showed me where I was, and I was able to drive out, get past all the reefs and the coral. But I slowed down to do that. The engine stalled and died. I had to hurry and start it because I was right by a moored boat. And there's like a little bit, there's a fair amount of wind. I could be sailing, but I feel like I should run the engine since it hasn't really done any kind of passage for like 5 months or 6 months. I guess 5 months. So we'll see. I'm gonna run the engine for a while. Never a dull moment. Very excited to be off the dock and heading out and get this little first short hop knocked out. So I just idled down the engine to let this big ship pass. and the engine died when I idled it down. Maybe I idled it down too fast, but that's the second time it's done it to me today. Right now we're sailing at almost the same speed we are motor sailing at, so I think I'll just go ahead and, I don't even have the main up, we just have the headsail up. So I think I'll just go ahead and sail. Might put up a little bit of the main, add to our speed. But weird stuff happening with the GPS. I've never experienced this before. So the predict wind data hub doesn't seem to be receiving a GPS signal. It shows that everything's fine if you go into the control panel. I haven't looked at the lights on the thing because it's down inside the nav station behind the panel. But if you look on the laptop at the sort of like dedicated ISB or whatever to look into the machine, looks like everything's fine, but it won't send a GPS signal to my iPad, and it's not updating the tracker. And I couldn't get my Garmin puck to work. It was frozen until I switched the new battery for the old battery for my old failed unit, and then it started working. So now I have navigation for the iPad. I just turned on my AIS to keep an eye on these ships and to give them a signal, and it's failing. Its GPS signal is failing as well, but it has a separate antenna than the data hub, and they're not connected to one another, which is, I don't understand. Super weird. So I got to sort all that out. But again, shakedown sail after a long time of sitting, bound to find things, but these are real strange things. I don't understand. And I know it's not like I'm in some kind of black hole for GPS, because my phone has GPS and now the Garmin Puck has GPS. So the whole thing is very peculiar. I love sailing. It has been a very long time since I got to just sail for hours on Triteia. It's been like 8 months since the wind gave out on us when we were sailing between Wakatobi and Takabanarate. And there was just no wind in Indonesia from then on, in the correct direction. There was wind with squalls when the monsoon switched, which was right on the nose, but no steady wind, no usable wind. So I am like in heaven. We also have like a really nice favorable current today, so we've been doing like between 5 and 6 knots all day with like, I don't know, 12 knots of wind. For Triteia, that's like, that doesn't add up to reality without a current. So at the end of last year, I suffered such extreme burnout, and I realized today I didn't get burned out from sailing. I got burned out from motor boating for 1,600 miles. It's fantastic. It feels so nice to be sailing. Okay, we are approaching the Gilis. We're going to Gili Air. Now in Indonesia, if there's a set of 3 islands or more, they're called Gilis. G-I-L-I. We're going to Gili Air, which is supposed to be kind of touristy, but has good food and stuff like that. So they also have mooring balls, which I hope to pick one up, which cost 50,000 rupiah a night, which is $3 a night. So I'm hoping there's a mooring ball. Otherwise, we have to anchor in 50 feet of water, and I'd rather not have to haul up all that chain. So, storms have cleared. Stopped raining. It's very pretty out. Nice and cool. And we're like 2.5 miles from the anchorage. I think tonight I'll probably just hang out, lay low. It's like, I don't know, 4:30 or something in the afternoon, so I'll probably just lay low tonight on the boat and then go explore the island in the morning. Tons and tons of small ferry boat traffic. I counted like 13 boats zipping in all directions earlier. There's supposed to be a handful of moorings up in here. So, I'm gonna pull in, drive around, have a look. I have the mooring clip all set up forward, so it's ready to go. I got the main down just now, stowed. So let's see if we can pick up this mooring ball and get situated for the night. We did it. Good morning from Gili Air. I apologize if you can hear the fan noise, but it's too hot to do this without a fan. Had a fantastic sleep last night. I slept like 9 hours or something crazy. I usually sleep 6 hours a night, so I slept deep on the mooring, back with the motion of the sea. Nice little breeze. In a marina, you never get like a good breeze as you do at an anchorage. So I had an incredible night's sleep. Also, the sort of stress of like finally leaving the dock after so long and getting back out there. Yesterday, leaving, I had such a sort of like wild card of GPS issues, which was very strange. I've never experienced like mass GPS problems before yesterday. But I left the dock. I had my new iPad set up with Navionics, and usually, well, for the last like, I don't know, several months that I was cruising, I was using the GPS signal from my PredictWind data hub, which controls all my tracking and all that stuff. So that supplied the would supply the GPS signal for the last several months of last year. So I put the iPad on, everything, it showed where I was in the correct position. So I was like, okay, we have a GPS signal. There's no way to know if it's actually really working until you start moving on Navionics. So I drive out of slip and it's not working. It's not showing my movement or anything. So I was like, okay. I was in a crowded mooring field surrounded by reefs. So I was like, well, I just got to get out of here before I sort out what's happening with that. So I just used my phone to navigate around all the reefs. I got out, restarted the units, restarted the Navionics, everything, no GPS signal, no GPS signal. So I went and got all the way from like Los Angeles to Indonesia. I've always just used these Garmin Glow 2 GPS pucks, which have been fantastic. And I put it in this little rubber housing. It just sits on my chart table. Goes in there. People use these for airplanes. These are like fantastic GPS pucks. They're far more reliable than many other like GPS signals, so really good. This one was new in January of last year, brand new. So I got that out, plugged it in, and it wouldn't fire up. So it just had both lights on. It wouldn't fire up and wouldn't start. So it was just kind of frozen. Like it was brick, and I was like, so I popped the battery out, put it back in, did the same thing over and over again. I got back up, made sure that I was safe, got back down here, and thought to pull out my old one, my original one. This one I got in 2017, and it lasted me until 2024 when it failed. So that's a pretty good run. As much as I put this thing through. I got blue tape on it to let me know it was the toasted one. And then I pulled out my spare, which was brand new out of the box, in January of last year. So I thought to pull this out, the failed one. I took the battery out of this one, put it in the brand new one, and it fired right up. So somehow the brand new battery for the other one failed and was making it brick, even plugged in, which was strange, but it worked. So then I had a GPS signal. I'm like, okay, cool. So around the same time, I start up my AIS unit because there were ships coming, and it's saying no GPS. And it wouldn't connect to GPS. Now it has its own antenna, dedicated antenna and everything. And so now I have like no GPS signal from my predict wind. I had no GPS signal from my AIS, and I originally had no GPS signal from my Garmin Puck. And so then I was like, but I had it on my phone, so I knew it wasn't in some kind of like, there wasn't some kind of jamming situation, like some kind of military ship or something. I had it on my phone, and then I started up my VHF just to see if it would show me my Latin long, and it did. So it wasn't like a blackout zone. It was like, it's such a testament to be like, you know, you think, oh, I've got 5 redundancies of GPS, so obviously we're not going to have a problem. But, well, guess what? Instantly 3 of mine didn't work. So that was like a pretty shocking wake-up call. So I didn't have AIS yesterday, which was a non-issue because there was no traffic. But I was just like, what in the world? Got here to Gili Air, and I messed with it. I kept unhooking the antenna. I put electrical contact cleaner in there, put it back on. Didn't work. Kept getting this failed message. And then also I was trying to figure out what's happening with the Predict Wind data hub. Because I took photo of the back, and it showed, like, there's a light that blinks if there's no GPS signal. So it was showing it was getting a GPS. It just wasn't transmitting it or anything. And then I went into the brains of it using my computer. Everything looked legit. It was still getting Starlink and all that, but none of my tracking was updating on the website. So I was, like, so confused. So then last night, going further into it, I realized that with Predict Wind, to have tracking, you have to have this yearly subscription with them. And mine had lapsed while I was away, or while I was not cruising. So that explains why the tracker wasn't updating. But I was shocked to find that it didn't. I still didn't, like, the actual hardware wouldn't transmit the GPS signal to my iPad since the tracking was disabled. That was shocking to me. But I guess it makes sense because it's all part of the same thing. But good to know. So that was that at the end of the day. So this morning, you know, I just got done with coffee, and I was like, okay, I decided what I would try to do is try to use the little GPS antenna for the Predict Wind, if it was the same fitting, which I doubted it would be the same fitting. But I was like, if the GPS antenna for the Predict Wind, I can feed it up to the AIS, and that'll tell me if it's the antenna on the stern that's mounted on the stern, or if it's the unit. Because I knew that there was no flashing light on the Predict Wind. So I was like, in theory, this little antenna still works. So I unclipped everything, got it all the wire loose, ran it up, plugged in the AIS, and boom. It worked. It got signal. And I was like, awesome. That's amazing. That is a huge stress relief. So then I was like, okay, so maybe my antenna on the stern, something happened. Maybe there was a near lightning strike or something that fried that. But it was confusing because it's right next to the Starlink, and the Starlink isn't fried. So it ran. I checked. AIS all works with the little antenna, so at least I have a backup there, and now I know that I have a spare option if something goes wrong at sea. So I unhooked that, went ahead and plugged its dedicated antenna back on, fired up the unit just to see if watch it fail again, you know, to confirm that that antenna was toasted. And it worked. So, in theory, the problem's solved. But man, so confusing. We'll see how long it lasts, and I wrote to Predict Wind, and they're like reactivating my stuff on Monday. So the tracker will be all up, and now we actually have working AIS. It was like so many mind puzzles yesterday with that stuff. But it was like really interesting wake up call to be like, just because you think you have this many, you know, I thought I had 5 redundancies in signal. Actually, I have 6 because I have a GPS dongle that you can plug into my laptop that I use for OpenCPN. So, you know, 6 known sources of GPS Latin long. Well, 3 of them didn't work in an instant, all together at the same time, unrelated to one another. So that was like pretty fascinating. But all's well that ends well. So we're going to be here a few days relaxing, enjoying Gili Air. It's a really neat little island, and I dig its vibe. If you enjoy the content on this channel and would like to contribute, you can consider joining the Patreon crew. Thanks for watching. Fair winds until next time.